This video is not paid for by the Three Ranger Bros. On YouTube, A-Crown, the Three Ranger Bros council member, is the creator of The Author's Crown. These are his stories.
Hello everyone, welcome to The Author's Crown. My name is A-Crown. In this channel, I will present to you stories written by both myself and occasionally stories written by good friends of mine. So without further ado, let's get this show started. The night sky over Busan raged as if it were alive, lightning slashing through the clouds like jagged swords. Shipping containers groaned in the wind, stacked like monoliths in the sprawling yard. Hunters laid scattered across the wet pavement, some half swallowed into pools of blood and darkness, others twisted into unnatural shapes as cursed energy wormed through their veins. Somewhere deep in the shadows, a presence stirred, raw power radiating off of it like heat from a furnace. Sung Jin-Woo stepped onto the slick asphalt, his shadows sifting and writhing behind him, stretching unnaturally long. He tilted his head back, letting the rain hit his face as he smirked. The darkness around him pulsed, the countless minions lurking in the shadows, eager to fight. "It's not from this world, but it's not a dungeon break," Jin-Woo murmured, "and it's feeding on mana and something else." He could move, the air beside the monster split open. Purple lightning framed a swirling hole in space, and three figures tumbled out, one blindfolded, one with spiky black hair and a cold stare, and one with a wild grin, his fists already clenched. The pink-haired one barely landed before he charged, shouting, "Hey! Step away from that thing!" His eyes flicked to Jin-Woo, black clothes, a shadow by his side, clearly suspicious. Jin-Woo's brow tightened. Hunters. No, their energies are different. They moved at the same time. The pink-haired one dashed in, energy flaring around his fists. Jin-Woo sidestepped, shadow mana rippling around him, and their first blows met midair with a thunderclap that sent spray off the pier. Biru lunged as he said, "No one harms the master!" A dark-colored wolf leapt in front of him. No, not a wolf. A shadow similar to Jin-Woo's own. Its jaws snapped, pushing the insectoid general reeling back. The blindfolded one cockily whistled. "Man, they take one step through a portal and are already making new enemies. Yuji, Fushiguro, chill," he said as he looked around. Jin-Woo said, "You're not hunters." Yuji and Fushiguro stopped their attacks as lightning cracked again, and the monster in the harbor screamed, spraying cursed energy across the dock like molten tar. It hit the water, and for a moment the sea boiled. Jin-Woo turned his gaze to it and said, "That's the real threat." Yuji didn't fully lower his fists, and said, "Then stop hiding behind that army and help us take it down." Shadow tendrils rippled around Jin-Woo's feet. "No one's hiding. Try to keep up." And with that, both of them turned, not as allies yet, but as two storms colliding on the same field of battle. The monster surged out of the harbor, its body an impossible sprawl of slick chitin and writhing starkness. Where moonlight touched it, the surface split open to reveal grinning, mask-like faces, each whispering curses that made the air feel heavy. It moved faster than something that size should. The dock buckled under its weight, water and debris spraying into the night. Yuji sprinted forward, Biru matching his speed from the opposite direction. The ant general lunged with a shriek, his claw meeting the monster as Yuji's cursed energy-reinforced fist met it as well, in a bone-rattling collision. "Hey, Bugman, this thing's mine!" Yuji shouted. "My liege has commanded me to destroy this enemy," Biru responded angrily. "Focus!" Jin-Woo's voice cut through the rain as he summoned a wall of shadow soldiers to intercept a cluster of needle-like appendages lancing towards them. The tendrils punched through two summoned knights. Fushiguro summoned Nue and leapt on its back, flying off towards the monster as he yelled, "Gojo, we could use some help here." Gojo sighed and lazily tilted his head, raising a single finger. The tendrils froze in midair. "You're welcome," Gojo said, smiling under the blindfold. "Also, cool army. Shame about the durability, though. On theatrically stretching his arms way above his head. This should be entertaining. Before Jin-Woo could respond, the monster slammed its bulk onto the dock, planks exploding upwards. One of the faces on its body split open and spat a torrent of black fire. Flames caught Nue's wings as Megumi leapt from its back. Ground, Jin-Woo quickly summoned Tusk, who countered the flames with a water spell, its hide sizzling as cursed fire and magic water evaporated into steam. "Biru, now!" Jin-Woo barked. The ant leapt high, landing on the monster's back, carving deep trenches into it. Saw the opening, vaulted up a leaning crane, and dropped down with both fists, smashing into the wounds on the creature's back. Black ichor sprayed, sizzling whatever it touched the ground. But the wound healed, shadows knitting with cursed energy, like two living threads weaving themselves shut. Jinu's eyes narrowed. "It's regenerating from all of our attacks." "So we hit it harder and faster than it can heal," Gojo said, pulling his hand back like he was winding up a pitch. "Hold it still for me, or don't. Either way, it's going to get hit." Jin-Woo didn't argue. He planted his hand on the ground, and every shadow soldier he possessed appeared, charging forward at once, swarming the monster in an avalanche of darkness. They latched onto it, immobilizing it for just a moment. He stepped forward, his smile widening. Hollow. The air trembled. Purple. A sphere of impossible light tore through the monster's torso, spraying shadow and cursed matter into the air like shrapnel. The monster shrieked, flailing, but Yuji was already there, smashing through the walls of its regenerating torso wound. Biru followed, carving down the creature's attacking limbs on one side, as Igris swung his great sword through the arms and legs on the other side in a single brutal motion. The first time the creature staggered, but even as it collapsed into the surf, the water around it began to boil. More faces opened along its length, all grinning. "This isn't over," Jin-Woo said, summoning fresh shadow soldiers. Yuji cracked his knuckles. "Good. I was just getting warmed up." The monster's boiling mass sank into the harbor. For a brief moment, the only sound was rain on the water. Then the sea itself went black. It wasn't just darkness. It was depth without bottom, shadow without source. The dock and cranes around them warped like reflections in broken glass. The storm overhead twisted into a whirlpool of clouds, pulling them down toward the water. Yuji staggered. That's not normal tide behavior, right?" "Domain expansion," Gojo said, his voice sharper than before. "But this isn't just cursed energy." Jinu's gaze narrowed. "It's pulling us into its inner world." "Yeah, that's what I said. Domain expansion," Gojo replied sarcastically. The harbor folded like a page turning, and suddenly they were standing in a city drowned in darkness. Towering skyscrapers leaned at impossible angles, their windows glowing with faint red eyes. The streets were flooded, ankle-deep in black water that rippled with whispering faces. Gojo flicked his fingers, trying to test the distance between himself and the others. The space stretched and bent in strange ways, his infinity flickering like static. "Not good," he muttered. "This place is messing with my technique. Feels like it's slipping." Jin-Woo felt it too. His shadows, normally razor-sharp extensions of his will, were sluggish. Soldiers twitched or moved without command, some glancing toward him with blank, unreadable eyes. Biru hissed, tilting his head like he was listening to something only he could hear. "Stay sharp," Jin-Woo said, as Igris slowly returned to his side. Something massive moved between the buildings, the monster swollen and warped by the domain, its body now split into dozens of humanoid torsos fused together, each with jagged wings and arms that ended in scythe blades. When it moved, the shadows themselves recoiled. Yuji didn't wait for orders. He bolted forward, splashing across the black water. Biru shot past him, cutting a path, while Megumi's Shikigami burst from the darkness at their flanks. The monster's laughter was layered, monarch deep and curse sharp, and every echo made the shadows twitch. One of Jinu's soldiers suddenly turned on Yuji. Shadow Monarch realized this quickly. In the blink of an eye, he raced to block the attack. He was fast enough to block the shadow's attack, Suddenly, from behind, the creature's shadow tendril pierced Yuji's back. He yelled out in pain, snapped back, driving his blade into the head of the corrupted shadow, and slashing at the tendril, exploded into smoke, shrieking. Itadori, you still with me? Gojo asked. Yuji got back up to his feet and said, Yeah, I'm okay. Yuji, clearly fighting through the pain, struck another shadow. Hate to have you dying and missing all the fun, Gojo said as he laughed. Igris and Biru approached Jin-Woo, clearly battling the attempts by the creature to control them. Jin-Woo apologized and dispelled them before they could be fully controlled. Moving, flickering in and out of sight as he tested the space. His voice carried from somewhere ahead. It's not just bending the rules. This place is the rules now. The monster descended, its many blades slicing down. The impact shattered a row of leaning towers, sending walls of shadow water crashing through the streets. Jin-Woo and Gojo locked eyes across the chaos and moved together, their combined energy rippling through the domain. Gojo chuckled as he said, Not bad. You're almost as fast as I am. But for every strike they landed, the city around them shifted, changing the battlefield, feeding the monster more shadow and cursed power. This place, Gojo said, his grin returning, despite the danger, is gonna be fun. He groaned like a living thing. Every impact from the monster's blades bent the skyline, twisting buildings into bridges, alleys into chasms. The black water surged higher, now waist deep, each wave crawling with pale hands. Gojo's infinity flickered again, forcing him to sidestep an incoming blade rather than just let it stop. Yep, he muttered. This place really doesn't like me. It's reacting to you, Megumi said, cutting down another tendril. You're a domain. It's fighting back. Good thing I love a fight, Gojo grinned, vanishing in a blink and reappearing above the monster's main torso, his kit caving in one of the faces before it sprouted a replacement. Ino moved beneath him, shadow mana swirling into an unstable vortex of energy. The creature's domain took control of it, summoning dozens of soldiers that erupted from the water, surging towards the group. But the domain twisted them as they emerged, armor sprouting extra mouths, blades dripping curse flame, some attacking the heroes, others turning on each other in a snarling frenzy. Yuji smashed through a corrupted soldier, panting, saying, Your minions have trust issues. Those aren't mine. Jin-Woo's tone was clipped, his focus razor sharp as he slashed through corrupted shadow soldiers. The curse's eyes all locked on him, its many mouths opened in unison, saying, You call them shadows. I call them prey. The streets buckled under Jin-Woo's feet, shadows pulling at his legs, trying to drag him under. Darkness has forgotten whom it serves. Time for a reminder, Jin-Woo says as he dispels the shadowy attacks with a quick flick of his wrist. Gojo landed beside him, brushing rain from his hair. I can crack this domain for a few seconds, long enough to give you a shot. Jin-Woo's gaze didn't leave the monster, saying, How clean? Gojo's grin widened. Think surgical nuke. Don't make it too easy, Jin-Woo says. Gojo laughs heartily and say, I like the way you think. They move together, Gojo flaring cursed energy, forcing the space around them into a tight sphere. The domain shuddered, buildings warping inward, as though gravity had inverted. At the center, his infinity steadied, and with it, a pinprick of blinding white. Keep still unless you want to be split apart into a million little pieces, Gojo said. Jin-Woo pointed his blade forward, put all of his mana into controlling his shadows. They roared from every alley and window, clamping onto the curse's limbs like a net made of knights. Even the corrupted ones bent under his will, howling as they obeyed. Gojo released a pinprick. It expanded instantly, usual vast void, but a compressed, unlimited void, so dense that the edges of reality around it fractured like ice. The monster screamed, flailing as the space inside its mind flooded with infinite knowledge, overwhelming even its dual nature. Gino moved. One step became 10, each shadow solidifying under his feet. He was sprinting up a bridge of darkness straight into its chest, his blade plunging through the core, a sphere of swirling mana and cursed energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. Domain convulsed, water and sky swapped places for an instant, and every whispering face in the city screamed before shattering into mist. The monster collapsed into the black water, its body dissolving into a swirl of shadows, smoke, and cursed ash. Gojo lowered his hand, exhaling. Surgical enough for you? Jin-Woo pulled his blade free, letting the core fall into the depths. It did the job. The domain shattered like glass, raining shards of black light across the harbor. One by one, the warped skyscrapers and endless streets dissolved, until only the storm-wrecked docks of Busan remained. The monster was gone. Its body had melted into smoke and ash, carried away by the tide. Yuji collapsed onto the wet concrete, chest heaving. That sucked. Gojo stretched like he'd just woken up from a nap. Oh, young Itadori, that's called a win. Jin-Woo said nothing, his gaze lingering on the shadow mist still curling around his feet. He raised a hand, and the remnants of his army began to reform from the darkness. One by one, his soldiers stepped into being. Biru, Igris, Tusk, the knights, the archers, all of them. But one came back wrong. A simple knight, helmet cracked, eyes glowing faint violet instead of the usual cold blue. It knelt as expected, sword pressed to the ground. Yet when Jin-Woo looked at it, he felt something watching back. A whisper brushed to the edge of his mind. Your army is vast, monarch, but an army is only as loyal as its dead. Shadow's mouth twitched, curling into something that almost resembled a smile. Jin-Woo's expression hardened, his grip on the soldier's tether tightened, and the whisper fell silent. The violet glow dimmed back to blue. Yuji glanced up, frowning. Everything good over there? Fine, Jin-Woo said quietly, dismissing the soldier into his shadow with a snap of his fingers. But long after the others relaxed, his mind stayed on that one voice, on the wrongness in the soldier's eyes. Long after the others began relaxing, his mind stayed on that one voice, on the wrongness in the soldier's eyes. The cracked pavement, a claw erupted, gnarled, dripping with curses thick as tar. The corpse twitched, its broken form sinking into a pool of black mana. The shadow soldier, once loyal only to Jin-Woo, twisted unnaturally, his armor creaking as if possessed. Gojo tilted his head, blindfold shimmering faintly. His grin had none of its usual ease. Ooh, that's new. The curse's remains convulsed, bones cracking as the shadows wrapped around it like a cocoon as it hovered out of the black water. Peered, hissing in fury, wings spread wide, Igris planting his blade firmly in the ground, his deep blue eyes glowing, but even they shuddered under the pull of whatever was rising. Yuji felt at first an overwhelming wave of malice, a hatred so dense it crawled under his skin. No, it's coming back stronger. Megumi's shadow stretched unnaturally despite his control. It's not just cursed energy or shadows, it's something else. Stepped forward, his cursed energy flaring in a halo around him as he removed his blindfold, effortlessly restraining the crushing aura for the others. His tone sharpened, rare steel cutting through the playfulness. Looks like we got ourselves a curse plus. Big, ugly, and apparently not a fan of staying dead. The cocoon then split. What emerged was no longer just a curse. It was a hybrid monstrosity, its body vast and jagged, dripping shadows that slithered across the ground like serpents, its face a mask of writhing curses and void. The shadow-infested curse roared, the sound alone shaking the port and hurling debris into the sea. Jin-Woo's mana surged in answer, the ground trembling with the call of 1,000 shadow soldiers. Yuji cracked his knuckles, teeth bared and still bleeding from his wound. Megumi summoned a new Shikigami, one that strained to exist in the twisted air. And Gojo, he laughed under his breath, eyes shining bright blue. All right then, round two. The air still sizzled with aftershocks of the domain's collapse. Fractured buildings groaned, their concrete skeletons collapsing in clouds of dust, while the taste of cursed energy lingered sharp and bitter on the tongue. Yuji stumbled out of the rubble, coughing, his knuckles raw and bleeding. He blinked through the haze, catching sight of Megumi dragging himself upright, his shadows flickering weakly around him, and then, light, sharp, and clean as a blade, split the gloom. Gojo stepped out of the wreckage, blindfold hanging loose around his neck, white hair glowing faintly in the ruined twilight. Bad at all, Gojo murmured, his gaze fixed on the center of the battlefield. There, where the shattered barrier had collapsed, shadows writhed like oil across the ground. The shadow soldier that had turned on Jin-Woo looked towards him, much larger now, but half mangled, his helm fully cracked, lurched forward, clutching something unseen in its black claws. Jin-Woo emerged behind it, his face set in grim focus. "It's not under my command anymore," he said, his voice low. The Shadow Knight slammed its clawed hand into the ground. From the fissure it created, cursed energy erupted like molten tar. The earth shivered. More energy poured into the Shadow Curse. Body now swollen, stitched together from shadow and cursed energy alike. It began to rise into the air, its horns longer, body bulkier, its form pulsed with a rhythm like a diseased heartbeat. Yuji's jaw clenched as he said, "It's back, and bigger." It let out a roar that rippled through the city, a sound not just heard, but felt in bone and blood. Around its feet, fragments of lesser curses fused with corrupted shadow soldiers, birthing new twisted monsters. Gojo stretched his arms, cracking his knuckles as if limbering up. "Well, that's inconvenient." Jin-Woo's expression didn't waver. "It's not mine anymore." Something in the collapse let it take the form through my soldier. We're looking at a curse reinforced by my shadow essence, stronger than before. Megumi wiped blood from his chin, eyes narrowing at the fusion. "Then we kill it before it stabilizes. If it keeps feeding on both cursed energy and shadows, it'll just keep evolving." Yuji cracked his fist, determination blazing despite the exhaustion. "Then let's go, all four of us." For a heartbeat, the four of them stood together in the ruin, the only line between the world and the monstrosity before them. It reared back, its malformed wings spreading like jagged knives, casting the battlefield into an unnatural night. Gojo, grinning like a man facing the most exciting puzzle of his life, spoke the words that snapped attention. "All right, team, let's make this thing regret being born twice." Gojo tilted his head, sensing the shift before anyone else could. The ground shuddered. The creature's guttural roar tore through the city, louder than before. Its form was unstable, half curse, half shadow, every breath dripping malevolence into the night. Jin-Woo's soldiers, scattered from the collapse, rose once more, glowing eyes locked on the curse's evolving body. Drew hissed, his insectoid frame twitching with anticipation. "My king, it seeks to defy you. Shall we crush it?" Jin-Woo didn't answer immediately. His own eyes narrowed as he studied. This wasn't just regeneration. Possession. His soldiers' attempt to bind the curse had anchored it to his shadows. A mistake, one that was now spiraling into something worse. He finally spoke, voice calm but edged with steel. "No, we don't attack recklessly. This thing's stronger now. Half curse, half shadow. If it's born completely, it won't stay in this port. It'll spread." Gojo's lips curled into a half smirk. Through his tone stayed sharp. "So we plan. Quick." Yuji cracked his fists together, forcing back the tremor in his arms. "Then tell me what to hear. I don't care what it is. Curse, shadow, whatever. I'll smash it." Megumi shook his head. "If we don't think this through, it won't matter how hard you hit. That thing is tied to both of your powers." He looked between Gojo and Jin-Woo. "If you don't coordinate, it'll just keep evolving." The curse screeched again, its body clawing upwards, a tangle of jagged lips and glowing abyssal eyes. Jin-Woo felt the pull of his own magic straining, as though the creature was tugging directly on his shadow army. Gojo clapped his hands together, breaking the tension with his usual casualness, but the voice was deliberate. "All right, team meeting time. Yuji, Megumi, you two focus on controlling the battlefield. Buy us breathing room. Jin-Woo, He tilted his head towards the hunter, grin sharpening. You and I are going to figure out how to kill a monster that's already part of you. Jin-Woo's gaze locked on the beast, its monstrous outline towering higher with each second. His hand flexed, summoning the weight of his army back into position. For the first time tonight, his voice held a note of grim resolve. Then let's plan fast, because if it finishes, his soldiers bristled, readying themselves. This city won't survive. Jin-Woo's hand twitched, shadows rippling at his command. It's feeding on both energies, mine and yours. Destroying outright may be impossible until we sever the connection. Gojo turned towards Yuji. Sukuna's energy may resonate with it. If anyone can disrupt that link, it might be you. Yuji swallowed hard, his fist clenched, cursed energy sparking like red lightning. Great, so I'm bait again. Megumi, pale but steady, summoned shadows that slithered at his feet. Not just bait. We'll box it in. My Shikigami can hold its attention long enough for you to strike. Jin-Woo, can your remaining soldiers anchor it? Biru and Agris will take it down. Jin-Woo's tone was absolute. Then I'll aim for its core with my blades. The curse roared again, the sound rattling their bones. Shards of cursed energy burst from its body like a storm of blades, slicing buildings in half. Gojo, voice light but razor-edged. Cute plan, but don't forget the most important piece. He stepped forward, his infinity flaring like a sun. I'm the one keeping it flattening for you before you even get into position. Then it's settled, Jin-Woo said coldly. His shadows writhed, forming a small army at his back. We strike together. If one of us falters, the rest won't survive. The creature's massive claw came crashing down, blotting out the skyline. Guess that's our signal, Gojo quipped, already raising his hand. Let's dance. The claw hit like a meteor. Gojo didn't move until the very last second, his infinity blooming outward in a sphere of stillness. The massive limb stopped inches above them, its jagged nails trembling as against the invisible barrier. Rain froze midair where the cursed shadow's aura touched his technique, droplets suspended like stars. Gojo tilted his head, smirk creeping back. See? Perfect dance floor. Move! Jin-Woo snapped. He stabbed his blade into the asphalt. His shadows surged upward, wrapping around the claw like chains. Biru leapt, wings beating, latching onto one talon. Agris vaulted higher, his sword carving deep into the black flesh of the creature's hand as it pinned it to the ground. The creature shrieked, its voices overlapping, cursed wails and shadow whispers blending into something that scraped the mind raw. The claw ripped free, but its arm dragged downward under the swarm of shadows Jin-Woo had unleashed. Now! Megumi slammed his hands together, his Shikigami erupting from the ground. Nue diving from the storm clouds, lightning sparking off its wings, while the massive form of Max Elephant barreled through the black tide like a living battering ram. The beast reeled, its torso exposed. Yuji didn't hesitate. He launched forward, cursed energy igniting around his fist. Sukuna's mocking laughter stirred at the edge of his soul, but Yuji drowned it out with a roar of his own. I'm ending this! He smashed his fist into the beast's chest. The impact cracked the air itself. Red lightning flared, blasting a hole into the monarch's ribcage. For a heartbeat, its core flickered, half mana, half cursed flame, for shadow tendrils instantly began knitting the wound shut. Yuji landed hard, teeth gritted. Not enough! That's why you're not hitting alone, Jin-Woo said sharply. Shadows exploded out of the ground beneath the wound, his soldiers clawing upwards. Agris drived his blade deep into the fissure Yuji had made. Biru tore chunks from the wound. Icar sprang across the dock again. Gojo exhaled, his 6 eyes sharpened on the regenerating core. Oh, I see it now. The weak point isn't the heart, it's the tether. Jin-Woo's eyes snapped to him. The tether. Where it's leeching off your shadows, Gojo grinned, lifting a finger. Cut the string, puppet falls. The monstrosity roared, sensing the realization. Its body convulsed, birthing dozens of smaller creatures, more twisted hybrids of shadow knights and curses. They shrieked as they hit the ground, swarming towards the sorcerers. Megumi! Yuji shouted. I know. Megumi slammed his hands together again, shadows twisting into a dozen shikigami, wolves, birds, serpents. An entire bestiary lunged forward, clashing with the hybrids in a frenzy of teeth and claws. Gojo clapped his hands, cursed energy spiraling around him. I'll make you a path. Space warped. Every hybrid within 20 meters froze, their forms unraveling under the weight of infinity's collapse. A narrow corridor stretched straight to the monster's tether, a pulsing cord of writhing shadows that linked its chest to the ground beneath Jinu's soldiers. Go! Jin-Woo didn't wait. He sprinted forward, his steps carried on bridges of shadow rising beneath him. Igris and Biro flanking him, their forms glowing with killing intent. The tether writhed, sensing the threat. Faces pushed through its surface, mocking, screaming, biting. It was made of both its power and the curse's essence. Severing it meant destroying part of himself. Jin-Woo's grip tightened on his blade, his army's weight pressed behind him, thousands of shadow depending on his will. He slashed. The blade bit into the tether, shadow mana and cursed energy shrieking in protest. The beast screamed with it, its body convulsing, claws tearing through skyscrapers as the link weakened. Yuji leapt beside him, fists blazing bright red. Then let's finish it together! Their blows landed as one, steel and flesh, shadow and curse. The tether snapped. The creature's body shuddered violently, its wings collapsing inward. Their fused energy inside it destabilized, spiraling into a storm of black flame and writhing night. Gojo, already raising his hand, whispered almost playfully, Surgical nuke, round 2. Light and darkness bloomed as the hollow purple tore through the collapsing forms, splitting the night wide open. The explosion swallowed the port, sea boiling into steam, skyscrapers toppling like paper. For a long moment, there was only light, shadow, and silence. When the shockwave cleared, the monster's body was gone again, reduced to nothingness. Only the storm remained, and 4 warriors standing amidst the ruin. But Jinu's gaze lingered on the shadows curling faintly at his feet. Something still whispered there, faint, patient, hungry. The storm had finally passed, as Busan lay in ruin. The harbor scarred, cranes twisted like broken teeth, and the streets slick with rainwater mixed with the black ichor of the defeated beast. Emergency crews began moving cautiously amongst the wreckage, working alongside the hunters to lift rubble and carry the wounded. Civilians whispered in awe and fear, eyes lingering on those shadows moved under Jinu's command, shadows that began to bend and twist to clear debris, unnervingly obedient, yet undeniably alive. Yuji crouched beside a collapsed wall, helping survivors to their feet, his fist still tingling from the battle. A thin smile broke through his exhaustion. Well, at least somebody survived to tell the story, he muttered, glancing at the dark water still rippling at the edges of the docks. Jin-Woo watched silently from the edge of the chaos, his shadow army kneeling and rising in unison, moving with a precision that was both awe-inspiring and unsettling. To the civilians, it looked like a miracle. To Jin-Woo, it felt like a reminder. Obedience wasn't loyalty, and even in victory, power was never truly his own. Gojo leaned lazily against the remainder of a broken crane, hands in his pocket, hair plastered with rain. His grin was back, though faint shadows under his eyes betrayed the exhaustion of the battle. Megumi approached quietly. Do you think it's really over? He asked. Gojo adjusted his blindfold back on as he said, Over? Sure. Done? Not even close. His tone was casual, but there was weight behind it, a silent acknowledgement that the fight had only scratched the surface of what was coming. Jin-Woo stepped forward, shadow soldiers parting before him like water. For a moment, he allowed himself a glance at Yuji, whose hands were still buzzing with residual energy. Their eyes met, 2 warriors carrying monsters inside them. 2 paths intertwined by fate and necessity. Neither spoke, neither needed to. In the distance, faint tremors rolled through the city. On the surface, they were dismissed as if aftershocks of the storm. But Jin-Woo felt it, the whisper of the creature, still alive in the shadows, still patient, still hungry. Deep within Yuji, Sukuna stirred, smirking in silent amusement. Interesting. the cursed king muttered. Finally, things are getting fun. Jinwoo's gaze drifted to the horizon. The shadows at his feet twisted lightly, a reminder that his army obeyed, yes, but that power itself was a living thing, unpredictable and eternal. He approached Jinwoo, mud and rainwater dripping from his clothes as he held out his hand, offering the faintest smile. Stay safe, okay? Don't hang out in the shadows too much. Jinwoo glanced at him, then nodded once. You too, Yuji. There's no warmth in his voice, only quiet acknowledgement, but it was enough. Megumi lingered a few steps behind. Maybe we'll see each other again, he said simply, voice carrying more reassurance than he intended. Maybe, Jinwoo replied as he shook Megumi's hand. Gojo stretched, yawning exaggeratedly, and gave them a one-arm salute. Don't have too much fun without me. And try not to get eaten by a giant monster before next time. His grin softened slightly, almost human. Gojo waved and turned to start walking away, Megumi following behind him. Jinwoo and Yuji watched as the ruined city stretched before them, silent but alive with memory and menace. Finally, Jinwoo turned to Yuji and said, Take care of yourself. And with that, they parted, each carrying their own scars, their own monsters, and their own unspoken understanding that this battle was over. Both of their wars were far from over. The harbor was quiet now, but the echo of the fight lingered, a promise and warning in the still, misty air. Later, Yuji, Gojo, and Megumi arrive back at Jujutsu High School. Yuji's stomach grumbles. He says, Man, after that, I'm starving. How about some sushi? Gojo laughs as he answers, Sure, I think you earned it. Yuji chuckled, but suddenly winced, collapsing to the ground, his abdomen screaming in pain. Gah! Yuji's scream rang through the air, sending chills up everyone's spines. The last thing he heard before everything went black was Sukuna's voice saying, Itadori. And that's the story for today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you like what you heard today, stay tuned for some awesome things to check out on the Zio to Hero Network. And thank you for listening to The Author's Crown. Subscribe to the channel! Do it now! Hey everyone, I'm A-Crown, and I'm thrilled to share that I'll be stepping into the cape and cowl as Batman in Nerdsto Comics' brand new audio drama adaptation of The Killing Joke. If you followed the channel before, you might know me from some of its other projects. I've had the chance to voice Commander William Riker and Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy in Doctor Who, Star Trek Assimilation, Billy Cranston in Goldar in Power Rangers adaptations, and even Taskmaster and Thor in Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. But this is special. The Killing Joke is one of the most iconic Batman stories ever told, and bringing it to life through audio has been an incredible experience. So make sure to follow Nerdsto Comics and get ready to step into Gotham with us when the laughter begins. What the hell, Grayson? I don't want to do this.
Come on, Roy. Don't be a jerk.
Fine. My name is Roy Harper, or you might know me as Arsenal. If you're interested in an original story set in the DC and Marvel universes, you need to go to Tiger Tales and listen to War Against Gotham.
And his other channels?
Shut up, Grayson. I'm getting to it. You may also want to go check out his other channels. There, you happy dick.
You could have at least done it with a little bit more enthusiasm.
No, I did it. Now I'm going home.